Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Amanda grown accustomed to waking early, a habit ingrained from years of dedication to her career. But today was different. Today marked 5 years since she'd fully embraced her true self, 5 years since Amanda had emerged from the chrysalis of Michael's life. As she stretched and padded to the bathroom, memories of her past life flooded back. The constant ache of feeling trapped in the wrong body, the stolen moments of bliss when she could dress as her authentic self, and the fear that had kept her from living truthfully for so long. Gazing at her reflection, Amanda marveled at the changes time and determination had wrought. Gone was the chiseled jaw and furrowed brow of Michael. In their place, softer features framed by shoulder-length chestnut hair looked back at her. A small smile played across her lips as she remembered the pivotal moment that had set her on this path. It had been a crisp autumn day, nearly 6 years ago. Michael, as he was known then, had mustered every ounce of courage to venture into Bloomingdale's. The department store had always been a sanctuary of sorts, a place where he could admire the array of women's clothing and imagine, if only for a moment, what it might be like to wear them openly. That day, his heart raced as he navigated through the aisles, fingertips brushing against silky fabrics and delicate lace. He'd almost talked himself out of it, almost turned back, when a familiar voice cut through his internal turmoil. "Michael, is that you?" He froze, panic rising in his chest as he turned to face Julie, his wife Anne's friend from their book club. She stood there, a look of surprise etched across her features, a shopping bag dangling from her arm. Julie, hi." Michael's voice came out as a strangled whisper. "I was just—" Julie's eyes darted from Michael's face to the rack of dresses he stood beside, understanding dawning in her gaze. "Oh, shopping for Anne?" she asked, her tone gentle. Michael opened his mouth to agree, to latch on to the convenient excuse, but found he couldn't. Years of hiding, of denying his true self, had taken their toll. In that moment, surrounded by the very items that represented the life he longed for, something inside him broke. "No," he said, his voice barely audible. "Not for Anne." Julie's expression softened further, compassion replacing surprise. "I see," she said simply, reaching out to squeeze Michael's arm. "You know, the personal shopper here is absolutely wonderful. Her name's Vivian. Why don't I introduce you?" Before Michael could protest, Julie had flagged down a tall, elegant woman with short silver hair and striking green eyes. "Vivian, darling, this is my friend Michael. I think he could use your expertise." Vivian's gaze swept over Michael, taking in his nervous posture and the longing in his eyes as he looked at the surrounding clothing. Without missing a beat, she smiled warmly. "Of course. Michael, why don't you come with me? We have a private fitting area where we can talk more comfortably." In a daze, Michael followed Vivian to a secluded corner of the store. Julie gave him an encouraging nod before disappearing into the shoe department. Once they were alone, Vivian gestured for Michael to take a seat. "Now then, how can I help you today?" Her voice was kind, free of judgment. Michael's hands trembled as he clasped them in his lap. I don't know where to start," he admitted. "The beginning is usually a good place," Vivian said with a gentle smile. "How long have you been interested in women's clothing?" The dam broke. Words poured out of Michael, years of pent-up feelings and secret desires spilling into the open. He told Vivian about his childhood fascination with his mother's dresses, about sneaking into Anne's closet when she was out, about the constant gnawing feeling that he was living a lie. Vivian listened attentively, nodding at times, her expression one of understanding and acceptance. When Michael finally fell silent, she leaned forward, her eyes meeting his. "Michael, what you're feeling is valid. It's real, and you're not alone. Many people struggle with gender identity, and it's okay to explore that." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "Now, let's start simple. Is there a name you'd prefer I use when we're alone?" Michael's breath caught in his throat. He'd never said it aloud before, but in the safety of this moment, he found the courage. "Amanda," he whispered. "I've always thought of myself as Amanda." "Amanda," Vivian repeated, smiling. "It's lovely to meet you, Amanda. Now, shall we find you something beautiful to wear?" What followed was a whirlwind of fabrics, colors, and styles. Vivian's expertise was evident as she selected items that would flatter Amanda's frame. She explained the art of creating curves where there were none, of minimizing certain features while accentuating others. In the privacy of the fitting room, Amanda tried on dress after dress, each one bringing her closer to the image she'd held in her mind for so long. Vivian showed her how to apply makeup, explaining the nuances of contouring and highlighting. As the afternoon wore on, Amanda found herself laughing and chatting with Vivian as if they'd known each other for years. The weight of secrecy that had burdened her for so long began to lift, replaced by a sense of liberation and joy. "Remember," Vivian said as they stood before the mirror, Amanda resplendent in a deep blue wrap dress. "Clothes don't make the woman. They're just a tool to help you express who you truly are inside." Amanda nodded, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means to me." Vivian squeezed her hand. "This is just the beginning, Amanda. The journey ahead won't be easy, but it will be worth it. You deserve to live authentically." As Amanda prepared to leave, purchases carefully packed away, Vivian pressed a business card into her hand. "If you ever need anything, advice, support, or just someone to talk to, please don't hesitate to call." That day at Bloomingdale's had been the catalyst for Amanda's transformation. In the weeks that followed, she'd found the courage to have honest conversations with Anne. It hadn't been easy. There had been tears, anger, and confusion. But ultimately, Anne's love had proven stronger than her initial shock. With Anne's support and Vivian's guidance, Amanda had begun the process of transitioning. Hormone therapy, voice training, and eventually surgery had followed. Each step had been challenging, but each had also brought her closer to aligning her outer self with her inner truth. Now, 5 years later, Amanda stood in her bedroom, carefully selecting an outfit for the day. She smoothed her hands over the silk blouse, remembering the thrill of her first shopping trip with Vivian. So much had changed since then, yet the joy of being true to herself had never diminished. As she applied her makeup, a skill she'd honed over the years, Amanda reflected on the twists and turns her life had taken. Her marriage to Anne had evolved into a deep friendship. While romantic love had faded, their bond had grown stronger through shared experiences and mutual support. Her career had taken a new direction as well. After years in corporate finance, Amanda had found a new passion in helping others on their own journeys of self-discovery. She now worked as a counselor, specializing in gender identity issues. A glance at the clock told her it was time to leave. Amanda gathered her things, took one last look in the mirror, and headed out the door. The summer air was warm against her skin as she walked to her car, heels clicking rhythmically on the pavement. Her first appointment of the day was at the community center where she volunteered. As she drove, Amanda's mind wandered to the young people she'd be meeting with today. Each of them was at a different stage of their journey, grappling with questions of identity and belonging. She remembered her own struggles and felt a surge of gratitude for how far she'd come. The community center was bustling when Amanda arrived. She made her way to the small office she used for consultations, greeting familiar faces along the way. As she settled in, there was a knock at the door. "Come in," she called. A teenager entered, shoulders hunched, eyes darting nervously around the room. Amanda recognized the look. She'd seen it in her own reflection countless times. "You must be Taylor," she said warmly. "I'm Amanda. Why don't you have a seat and we can chat?" As Taylor sat, Amanda noticed the way they fidgeted with the hem of their oversized sweater. "So, Taylor, what brings you here today?" Taylor's voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know who I am anymore. Everything feels wrong." Amanda leaned forward, her voice gentle. "That feeling of wrongness can be overwhelming, can't it? But I want you to know something, Taylor. Questioning your identity doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It means you're brave enough to look inside yourself and seek the truth." Taylor's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope replacing some of the fear. "Really?" "Absolutely," Amanda smiled. "Now, why don't you tell me a bit more about what you're experiencing?" As Taylor began to open up, Amanda listened intently, offering guidance and support. She shared parts of her own story, watching as Taylor's posture gradually relaxed, their words coming more freely. By the end of the session, Taylor stood a little taller, a small smile playing at the corners of their mouth. "Thank you," they said. I don't feel so alone anymore." Amanda felt a warmth spread through her chest. This was why she did this work. "Remember, Taylor, your journey is your own. There's no right or wrong way to explore your identity. Be patient with yourself and know that you have support here whenever you need it." After Taylor left, Amanda took a moment to center herself before her next appointment. She thought about all the Taylors she'd met over the years, each one reminding her of her own struggles and triumphs. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of consultations and support group meetings. By the time lunch rolled around, Amanda was ready for a break. She decided to treat herself to a meal at her favorite cafe down the street. As she entered the bustling eatery, a familiar face caught her eye. Julie, Anne's friend from all those years ago, was seated at a corner table, engrossed in a book. Amanda hesitated for a moment, memories of that fateful day at Bloomingdale's flooding back. Taking a deep breath, she approached the table. "Julie, it's Amanda. We met a long time ago. I used to be..." Julie looked up, recognition dawning in her eyes. "Michael?" she gasped, then quickly corrected herself. "I mean, Amanda. Oh my goodness, look at you." Amanda smiled, relieved at Julie's warm reaction. "It's been a while, hasn't it? Would you mind if I joined you?" "Please, sit." Julie gestured to the empty chair. "My goodness, Amanda, you look wonderful. How long has it been?" "About 5 years since I transitioned fully," Amanda replied, settling into the seat. "But that day at Bloomingdale's, that was the real beginning." Julie's eyes softened with understanding. "I remember. I'm so glad I was able to introduce you to Vivian that day. I had a feeling she'd be able to help." Amanda nodded, emotion welling up in her throat. "You have no idea how much that meant to me. Your kindness, your acceptance, it gave me the courage to take those first steps." Julie reached across the table, squeezing Amanda's hand. "I'm just happy I could play a small part in your journey. You seem so much happier now, so much more you." As they caught up over lunch, Amanda felt a sense of coming full circle. Here she was, sitting with someone who had witnessed the very beginning of her transformation, able to show how far she'd come. "So, tell me," Julie said as they finished their meals, "what are you up to these days?" Amanda's eyes lit up as she began to describe her work at the community center, the lives she'd touched, the changes she'd seen in herself and others. Julie listened intently, her admiration evident. "Amanda, that's incredible," she said when Amanda paused for breath. "You're making such a difference in people's lives." Amanda felt a flush of pride. "It's the most fulfilling work I've ever done. Every day, I'm grateful for the chance to help others the way Vivian and others helped me." As they parted ways, promising to keep in touch, Amanda felt a renewed sense of purpose. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the community center's parking lot as Amanda made her way back inside. Her conversation with Julie had left her feeling energized, a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. As she pushed open the heavy glass doors, the familiar buzz of activity washed over her. "Welcome back, Amanda," the receptionist's cheerful voice greeted her. "Your next appointment's waiting in your office." Amanda nodded her thanks, smoothing down her blouse as she walked down the corridor. She paused outside her office door, taking a deep breath to center herself. Each person who walked through that door carried their own unique story, their own fears and hopes. It was her job, her privilege, to help them navigate the complex waters of self-discovery. As she entered, Amanda's eyes fell upon a middle-aged individual perched nervously on the edge of the chair. Their salt and pepper hair was cropped short, and they wore a nondescript button-down shirt and slacks. "Hello, I'm Amanda," she said warmly, extending her hand. "You must be Sam." Sam's grip was firm, but their hand trembled slightly. "Yes, that's me. Thank you for seeing me." Amanda settled into her chair, noting the way Sam's eyes darted around the room, never quite meeting her gaze. "So, Sam, what brings you here today?" Sam's fingers twisted in their lap. I'm not sure where to start. I've been living a lie for so long, I don't know who I am anymore." The words struck a chord deep within Amanda. How many times had she uttered those same sentiments, felt that same crushing weight of inauthenticity? That feeling of being lost, of living a lie. "It's more common than you might think," Amanda said gently. "Can you tell me a bit more about what you mean?" Sam's shoulders slumped. "I've been married for 30 years. I have kids, grandkids. I've built this whole life as a man, but—" Their voice cracked. "But it's never felt right. I've always felt like I was playing a part in someone else's story." Amanda leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. "Sam, it takes incredible courage to acknowledge those feelings, especially after so many years. You're not alone in this." For the next hour, Sam's story poured out in fits and starts. The childhood memories of secretly trying on their mother's clothes, the years of burying those feelings deep, throwing themselves into work and family life. The growing sense of despair as they approached their 60th birthday, realizing they might never live as their true self. As Sam spoke, Amanda listened intently, offering guidance and support where needed. She shared parts of her own journey, watching as Sam's posture gradually relaxed, their words coming more freely. "I don't know how to even begin," Sam admitted, their voice barely above a whisper. "How do I tell my wife, my kids? I'm terrified of losing everything." Amanda's heart ached with empathy. "Those fears are valid, Sam. Coming out to loved ones is never easy, especially later in life. But in my experience, living authentically often strengthens relationships in the long run. It allows people to truly know and love the real you." She reached for a pamphlet on her desk. "I'd like to recommend a support group for individuals exploring their gender identity later in life. It can be incredibly helpful to connect with others who understand what you're going through." Sam took the pamphlet with trembling hands. "Thank you. I don't feel quite so alone anymore." As their session drew to a close, Amanda stood, extending her hand once more. "Remember, Sam, this is your journey. There's no rush, no right or wrong way to explore your identity. Be patient with yourself, and know that you have support here whenever you need it." Sam's grip was firmer this time, their eyes meeting Amanda's with a glimmer of hope. "Thank you, Amanda. Truly." After Sam left, Amanda took a moment to collect her thoughts. Each person's story was unique, yet there were always threads of commonality: the fear, the longing, the hope for acceptance. She thought back to her own journey, to the day in Bloomingdale's that had changed everything. How far she'd come since then, and how much further she still had to go in helping others find their path. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of appointments and group sessions. By the time Amanda locked up her office, the sun was dipping low on the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. As she walked to her car, her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Anne, her ex-wife and still one of her closest friends. "Dinner at 7. The girls are in town and dying to see you." Amanda smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. Her relationship with her daughters had been rocky at first, but over time, understanding and love had prevailed. These days, their get-togethers were filled with laughter and genuine connection. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," she texted back. The drive home was quick. traffic mercifully light for a weekday evening. Amanda hummed along to the radio, her mind drifting to the day's events. As she pulled into her driveway, she caught sight of her reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back at her was confident, compassionate, and completely herself. Inside, Amanda took a quick shower, letting the warm water wash away the day's tensions. As she got dressed for dinner, she found herself gravitating towards a favorite emerald green dress, a gift from Vivian on the 5th anniversary of their first meeting. Memories flooded back as she zipped up the dress. Vivian had become so much more than just a personal shopper. She'd been a mentor, a confidant, and, eventually, a dear friend. Amanda made a mental note to give her a call soon. It had been too long since they'd last caught up. A glance at the clock told her it was time to leave. She gave herself one last look in the full-length mirror, adjusting her necklace and smoothing down her hair. The woman staring back at her was a far cry from the conflicted, fearful person she'd been all those years ago. The restaurant was bustling when Amanda arrived. She spotted Anne and the girls at a corner table, their faces lighting up as she approached. "Mom!" Her youngest, Lily, jumped up to envelop her in a hug. "You look amazing!" Amanda's heart swelled with love and gratitude. "It's so good to see you all," she said, taking her seat. "How long are you in town for?" As they caught up over appetizers and wine, Amanda found herself marveling at the easy camaraderie they'd developed. There had been a time when she'd feared losing her family completely. Now, here they were, laughing and sharing stories as if nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. "So, Mom?" her older daughter Emma said during a lull in the conversation. "We've got some news." Amanda raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh." Emma exchanged a glance with her sister, then took a deep breath. "We've been thinking about the foundation you mentioned starting, the one to help transgender individuals access medical care and support services." Amanda nodded, remembering the conversation from months ago. It had been a dream of hers, but the logistics had seemed overwhelming. "Well," Lily chimed in, "we want to help make it happen. We've been doing some research, talking to some people." As her daughters laid out their ideas, potential donors, grant opportunities, partnerships with existing organizations, Amanda felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. This was more than just acceptance. This was active support, a desire to be part of her mission to help others. Anne reached across the table, squeezing Amanda's hand. "We're all in this together," she said softly. "Family is family, no matter what form it takes." Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.